Coach, can you hear me? You're on mute, Coach.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Okay.
You're
I can't see you guys. Can you see me at all?
Yeah,
there you go. I got you.
You're good to go.
Are we good now?
Yeah.
Okay. I always panic when it comes to this stuff.
No. So when I tried to get out of the offensive meeting it prompted me to end the call for everybody. So I had to make sure with Natalie that I could leave and the other call would stay on and wouldn't end for 40 people. So
yeah. Good idea. Yeah.
All right.
So are they done? Are they still going?
They're still going. And I think they're going to wind up going right until 4 o'clock
or so. Yeah.
Yep.
Is Mike gonna jump in there then?
Mike will be joining us as soon as that's over, and we should be good to go. So I'm just pulling your PowerPoint up.
Okay.
And we got it. All right. All right, we're set. So did you travel this weekend, Coach?
I was up in Minnesota for a couple of days, and like last weekend I was in Florida. So it's been a pretty busy 2 weeks. A lot of fun, but it's been busy.
Absolutely. Were you at the University of Minnesota?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Kind of watching my Packer game. I'm a big Packer fan, you know.
Are you?
They're hanging on. They're hanging on for their dear lives. And Cincinnati just scored, and there's 4 minutes left, and Packers have a 6-point lead, and Cincy's about to kick off. So,
well,
if my eyes are diverting over here, it's because I'm looking at my phone.
Hey, you know what, Coach? Do what you got to do. I respect that. Are you from Wisconsin?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Where?
La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Okay. Outstanding. I don't know. I went to school in Wisconsin, and I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you went to Boyd, right?
Yep, and I don't know anybody that wasn't a Packers fan. So.
Oh God, yeah. It's yeah, it's pretty wild up there.
Yeah. It's a way of life. It really is.
Yeah, well, you spent some time in Wisconsin. There's not a lot to do, late fall, early winter, other than I guess you could go to a Buck game, but as far as your entertainment, you're a little bit limited. So
yeah,
they are all in on that.
Absolutely.
On that situation, that's for sure.
Absolutely. It was either the Bucks or in the wintertime, as I remember, it was Badger hockey. Hockey and Badger basketball. Yep.
Yeah, Badger hockey was good. Now their basketball has gotten a little bit better.
Yep.
So there for a while they weren't particularly good in basketball. So
Coaches, thank you for joining us. The session with Coach Mosiello is going to wrap up here shortly. So we'll give everybody an opportunity to jump on over to this session with Coach Servais, and we'll get started here shortly.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I know there's a lot of people making it over from the other call, and there's some people with us. So welcome. We're going to take a couple minutes and just allow for the transition to happen from the offensive call over here. I see some new folks that weren't over there, so welcome. Thanks for being here on a Sunday night and doing what we do, which is love baseball and want to get better. So we'll wait a couple minutes and then we'll get rocking and roll with Coach Servais. Welcome, everybody. Hey, good evening to everybody joining us here. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. We've still got a couple people coming on here every 10 seconds or so. We're going to allow the crowd to assemble, and then we'll get into visiting with Coach Servais. But welcome to everybody on the call. All right. Well, hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's afternoon here in Arizona, and welcome to the call tonight. I see a lot of people came over from the offensive clinic that we had with Coach Mo, and I see some brand new faces. So welcome to the call. I just want to start with a little bit of background here. So what Coaching Matters is it's a nonprofit foundation that I have where we just get communities of coaches together, whether that's baseball this month or softball next month or whenever that is. And we like to promote all the different sports. And we like to assemble coaches and the best coaches we can find to just improve athletics on whatever level. And that's what Coaching Matters does. Fundraising University is the sponsor of Coaching Matters. And so we wanted to first and foremost thank them. They're the ones that are designing the coaches that we're assembling and spending the time and the money to make this available to everybody. And we'll continue to communicate about Fundraising University as well. And so the way that we're going to do the call tonight is Coach Alex is going to be helping us facilitate the information. And then obviously Coach Servais, who we're going to visit with here and have him introduce himself, will be the person that's giving us information. So we'll spend some time. There'll be some periods where we could ask some questions, interact with each other. I think we all know that That's going to be where we're at our best versus talking at you, which is all talking together. And so we'll just get started. And Coach Servais, welcome to the call. If you don't mind, for those that don't know you, tell us about who Coach Servais is, and then we'll talk about why we have you on the call tonight. Thanks for being here.
Well, you bet, Mike. It's good to be with you all on a Sunday evening. Like Mike said, my name is Ed Servais, and I coached baseball at Creighton University for 28 years and, 41 years at the college level. I actually started out as a high school coach right out of college. So I've had experiences at a lot of different levels: high school, Division III, NAIA schools, Division I as an assistant, and then completed 22 years as the head coach at Creighton University. So, and we always prided ourselves in defense. I really think defensive part is maybe a part that we don't talk enough about when it comes to baseball. So I think that's why Mike reached out to me, and he wanted us to touch base a little bit on the defensive side tonight.
Yeah, welcome, Coach. And I want to expand on that before we get into it. What I wanted to share is what I had a chance to observe. This will be actually my 30th year coaching this year. And along the way, one of the biggest lessons that I learned that was constant, was consistent, was that in the game of baseball, if you can do two things, right? If you can play really good catch at whatever level that you're at, defense is an accelerated game of catch, whether that's team defense, individual defense. The catching and throw mechanics are not similar at every level, but there's lots of similarities at every level that all of us could draw from this, whether you're a high school coach or I know there's some youth coaches on here. And so, the art of teaching catch and throw is a lost art. It's a gone art. And, I've been lucky enough to coach in the Big Ten and now in the Big 12. And I can tell you that, I don't know the catch and throw game like some people, but I can show up at a college baseball game and tell you who spends time on it and who it's important to or not. Right. And the ones that it's important to, they have an advantage, right? They have an extreme advantage. And the best part about being a disciplined catch and throw club is it also, to me, radiates discipline through your entire program. If you can do the little things at the highest level, it's going to build in an inner discipline that has transferable opportunities into the mental game, how you run the bases. And we wanted to share that gift here. No matter how talented or untalented your club is, you can be great at catching and throwing, and you can improve your club. And more so, we can develop the purest into baseball players, which is missing, right? And we don't need to back down to that and say that it's missing and do all these cliches and get caught up in all the wrong things. Instead, it's important that we do something about it and we give great information to great people like you, and that's what's going to happen tonight. So, Coach, we'll turn it over to you.
Well, good. When I talk about defense, I always talk to coaches about, we all have offensive philosophies, whether you believe in the bunt game or the steal game or whether you want your guys to be, hit the ball in the air, hit the ball more flat. I think it's universal that we all have an offensive philosophy. I don't think too many of us have a defensive philosophy. And I would highly recommend that it doesn't have to be necessarily the philosophy that I bought into, but have some kind of a defensive system. And if you look at every sport, football, okay, we're big into football now, right? Most of you probably enjoy football. You can't tell me they don't have a defensive system. Basketball, that's coming up. I enjoy basketball too. They have a system that when they're on defense, they know what they're doing. And then I just don't see a lot of coaches at the whatever level have a system in place defensively. And I'm always surprised by that, whatever it is. I just think you have to have something. And Mike talked about, the throwing. I'm just a big believer in throwing. We spend so much time teaching throwing mechanics and so on to our pitchers, but don't our position players throw as well? And we spend no time with that. And I see way too many coaches that let their players go out to the outfield, after they might do kind of a modified stretch. and the coach will say to the team, hey, go out and throw, and when you're loose, we'll start practice. And I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. Practice starts with that throwing program. And what I want to do tonight is I want to introduce what we've done for many, many years. I think it works. I've had a lot of folks come up to me and say that they've kind of implemented some kind of a throwing program, whether it's this one or not. Again, that's up to you as a coach. But that a structured throwing program works. You got to remember now, depending upon what level of coaching you're at. So if we have youth coaches on here, that's fantastic. I can guarantee you 75 to 80% of the errors made on the baseball field are throwing. Now at the high school level, it's probably closer to 75. At the college level, it's probably closer to 70. But that's a lot. That's a high percentage of the errors are made by a throwing situation that you have control of. You have control. I don't control the bounce of the ball. I can't control if the ball's wet, if there's sun, if there's wind. But once that ball's in my hand, I have control. And you know, when it comes to defense, guys, and Mike touched on it, you know, there's three parts of it, in my opinion. There's the throwing part, obviously. There's the catching part. And there's the decision-making part. You have to make good decisions. Now, I hope that a lot of you are having a chance to watch baseball at this time of year because it's fantastic. And they don't emphasize necessarily a lot of defensive stuff during the regular season, but those defensive mistakes are really highlighted at this time of year. And so if you watch the game tonight, or if you watch the Brewers play the Dodgers tomorrow, pay attention to the mistakes made. And if there's a error made, was it made because of a physical mistake or a mental mistake? Was it made because of a poor decision? I would say that there's probably likely that would happen. So it comes down to three things: throwing, fielding, decision-making. So whatever you do in your practice, you've got to implement decision-making, and you got to implement accountability in your workouts. Otherwise, the stuff isn't good. It's not going to translate. Okay, so I call our throwing program the concentrated throwing program. That first word is huge, because what happens when young players are playing catch, they sometimes are carrying on a conversation with the guy next to them, or they're worried about maybe what they're going to do after practice, or maybe they brought something that happened before practice into their practice. And I put that on my practice plan every day I coached: concentrated throwing program. Not just a throwing program, a concentrated throwing program, because I wanted to emphasize to our players the importance of that. Okay, so and let me just add one more thing, and then I'm going to actually show you our throwing program. And again, you can implement some of it or all of it. That's your call. But, you know, coaching, guys, is nothing more than teaching. And the best coaches I know are the ones that have the ability to take what can be a complex and difficult skill and simplify it. Can you simplify this throwing stuff? Can you do it? Those are the best coaches. Because really, we're teachers at the end of the day. You're teaching. And if you happen to be a youth coach, man, you got to be an outstanding teacher. We sometimes at the college level, we can get spoiled a little bit because our players come to us skilled. But if you're working with 8 or 9-year-olds, man, you've got to be a good teacher. And you somehow have to break that skill down to its simplest form. I tell our players all the time, I wish they could do two things. I wish they could umpire games, and I wish they could teach 8-year-olds, because then you would realize how difficult it is to umpire, and you'd realize how difficult it is to actually break a skill down and teach it. All right, good.
Hey, Coach, one thing before we start and get into this that I just want to connect so we have a really proper foundation, because I've noticed when I've taught parts of this myself, people get lost here. And so this is meant to accentuate the message here. You talked about the throwing program, and we use the word throwing all the time. But you talked about something that's overlooked, and I want to make sure people understand the way that you see that, because it's going to parlay out into the rest of these slides. You talked about learning how to receive the baseball and how little that's taught. It's almost not taught at all, which I've seen in college. Just maybe talk about what that means, so when we get into the slides, we can keep people connected, if you don't mind.
Well, the receiving part, is hand to hand with your transfer. And a lot of throwing mistakes take place because of a poor transfer. So I have a special passion for infield play. And what we try to get our infielders to do is to catch the ball if they can. It's not possible every time. Catch the ball in the same part of your glove, closer to the heel of your hand and not to the pocket, because it'll allow you to transfer the ball quicker. So the sooner you can teach those young players how to do that, the more it becomes a habit. But I just don't think – I think our catch play, guys, to be super honest, I think it's sloppy. I think it's got to be better. And if you've ever watched an international baseball player throw the baseball and catch it, they're kind of whooping up on us a little bit when it comes to that. We can do a better job of throwing and catching. So that's a big part of your practice. I learned that many, many years ago. I share this story all the time when I talk about this, because I love to talk about the throwing program. When I was a really young coach, I was in the dugout and I was looking at my lineup like a lot of us do before a game, correct? And the team I was coaching was in left field, throwing, rather. And a scout came into the dugout and he said, Ed, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm looking at our lineup in the dugout, making sure I didn't make any mistakes. And he goes, where's your team? And I go, well, his name was Dale. I said, Dale, they're out in left field. He goes, why aren't you out there with them? That may be the most important thing they do today. You should be with them. From that moment on, I never, ever, ever missed a throwing session with our team. Practice, game, made no difference. Assistant coach, head coach, made no difference. Because I think my presence out there, without saying a word, told those players, hey, this is kind of important. The old man thinks this is important. Otherwise, he wouldn't be out here with us. So again, whatever you have to do, make it important for your athletes. You're going to win some games, guys. I don't know about your level. I don't know what level, but at the college level, when I was coaching, 40% of our games were decided by 1 or 2 runs. That's not based on 1 year. That's based on 20 plus years. So I wanted to win those 1 and 2 run games. I knew I had a better chance if we could defend. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, the first slide on. So we start on 2 knees. Now notice these are infielders here, and they're using paddle gloves. Here's another little thing. I try to make practice hard so that the game becomes easier. By catching with a paddle glove, they've now got to use 2 hands. They've got to concentrate. And why are we on 2 knees? So if we could just stop that, Alex, right here. We're on 2 knees so I can isolate my upper half, guys. So I want to, everything starts in the center of your body. No matter what position you play, whether you catch a fly ball, whether you're an infielder, whether you're a catcher, you bring the ball to the center before you separate. So I want our players to bring the ball to the center of their body. When you separate your hands now, don't separate like this. You got to separate thumbs down, because that'll get your front side of your, so if I'm a right-hand thrower, the left side of my body is my directional side. Don't throw with a dead front side. And when Alex starts this up again in a moment, you're going to notice when those guys separate their hands, their thumbs go down, their fingers stay on top of the baseball, their front side, that front elbow is pointing to your target. And you got to turn. You got to get that front shoulder to your target. Now, these are Division I athletes. They wouldn't have to do it. They're 5 yards apart. But I'm really focused. I'm right there with them. I'm the guy in the black behind them. I'm there reminding them, make sure that you get that front side closed. Make sure that that front shoulder is pointed to your target. Otherwise, the ball's going to leak. Remember this as a thrower. You want to make it easy for the other guy on the other end to catch it. You want to make it easy for him to catch. You also want to learn to throw as a position player. You want to learn to throw the ball straight. Now, as a pitcher, that's the last thing you want to do, right? But as a position player, you want to throw the ball straight. So who's ever on the other end, it's easy for them to catch. you can go ahead and finish that slide. So we start on 2 knees with the paddle gloves, if you're lucky enough to, afford paddle gloves at the level that you're working with, okay? From 2 knees, we'll go to the next slide, and we progress to 1 knee. This is a progressive throwing program. Some of you are teachers, whether it be middle school, high school, whatever. Don't you teach in a progressive manner? Yes, you do. I know you do. I was a teacher for 4 years. You teach in a very progressive manner. I would recommend that every skill you teach on the baseball field is in a progressive manner. You don't just jump to the last thing. You got to teach it 2 knees. From 2 knees, we're going to go to 1 knee. And now when we're on 1 knee, we're going to emphasize still our takeaway, our separation. And now we're going to talk about extension. We want to make sure that when we finish our throw, these guys are right-hand throwers, that the right hand finishes outside the stride knee or the left knee. It doesn't coil or snap back. It doesn't finish to the inside of that bent knee. It finishes to the outside. And we're working on extension. I would tell our players all the time, hey, get as close to your target as you can before you release the ball. Get as close to your target as you can before you release the ball. And that will be a reminder for them to get extension. The pitchers aren't the only ones trying to get extension. You want to get extension with your position players as well. So go ahead and roll this 1 knee tape here, Alex. And notice where the hand finishes now. Notice how some of them are, you got to stay with them. Now these guys here were upperclassmen, and truthfully, they're just a little bit too lazy for my liking. I should have probably made a comment to them because I'd like to see them extend and reach a little bit more. The guy in front here, number 3, he was our second baseman. He's doing a little bit better job of, extending. But look at that front side. And then when you turn to throw, don't let that glove push away from your body. That front side, that glove should stay tight to your body. I love the NFL, and so do a lot of you guys. If you watch the game tonight, which you're probably not going to because you're going to watch a baseball game, watch how those quarterbacks throw. Watch the front side, not the back side. Watch the front side. That gives you a lot of information. So we go from 2 knees to 1 knee. And again, these are with paddle gloves, just the infielders. The outfielders are using the regular glove. And again, these are Division I athletes. So if Division I guys can do it, I would assume high school and below can do it. And I work a lot with the youth kids now too. And we do the same stuff. We do the same thing with 9-year-olds as I did with 23-year-olds. Obviously, the 23-year-olds just did it a little bit quicker with a little bit more rhythm to what they're doing. The next slide, we go to turn and throw. So now we're standing up. We're in an athletic position. Get your guys athletic. Sometimes they don't even know what that means. So feet wider and shoulder width apart and stay in your legs. So I want your legs to be flexed. And now we're going to just rotate the upper body. We're still not using our lower half at all. We're going to rotate the upper body. We're still working on our hands, our separation. We're still making sure our fingers stay on top of the baseball and not get underneath. We're not pushing a ball like a shot putter would. We're throwing it and making sure that front side is pointed to your target, understanding that the front side is your directional side. So again, these guys are about 15 yards apart. And again, if they were lazy, they wouldn't have to turn their upper body to deliver the ball 15 yards. But again, I'm there trying to work with them. I actually enjoyed this part of practice more than any other time because I thought it was a great teaching opportunity. No matter how many times these guys did it, this guy closest to it, he's a 5th-year senior. He's done this I don't know how many times. But he still needs to be reminded and not to be lazy with what he's doing with his upper half. Go ahead, Alex, and run that. And not only are they throwing out, they're working on their catching with that paddle glove, which is obviously not easy. And you can't catch one-handed with that paddle glove. So we're trying to get them to concentrate on what part of the glove they're catching so they can work on their transfer. Because again, if you got to dig in there twice, nothing good's going to happen. You're not going to make a good throw. The kid's going to panic. He's going to stop his feet, and the throw is going to go a lot of different ways. All right? So this is turn and throw. All right, now they take their paddle gloves off and they go to the regular gloves. So you notice that's what they're doing right now. They're throwing their paddle glove off to the side. And we'll go to the next slide. And the next side is back and throw. So now the thrower is going to turn his body sideways. The man receiving the throw is still going to stay squared up to his partner. We're still in an athletic position. And now we're going to rock back because we need some momentum now. We're probably about 20 yards away, 60 feet. So we have to gather some momentum to deliver the ball to our target. Hey, if you're working with high school players, once you do this about 3 or 4 times, that ball should never touch the ground. Never touch the ground. And then be so specific as to when they throw the ball, they're trying to hit their partner in the chin. And I always tell them jokingly that I've never seen a guy drop a ball that's headed to his chin. He's going to catch it. Your partner's going to catch it on the other end. So go ahead, Alex, run this. So we're going to, okay, they got their regular gloves on now. The guy with the ball's got his body turned sideways. The guy that's receiving squared up. And now they're just going to rock back, turn and throw. Watch the near guy. He does it the best. He has to. He was a non-scholarship player, turned himself into be a starter for 2 years for us. He had to do everything right. Undersized. He's about 5'9", weighed about 145 pounds. You don't see a lot of those guys on a Division I baseball field. So he knew that in order for him to have a chance, he had to do it right. He does a very good job. Back, turn, throw. And all they're doing on the backside, guys, is turning their shoelaces down. So you're not letting that backside come through. And I want them to feel getting out and releasing the ball out in front of their front side. So they're not releasing the ball with a stiff back, but they're reaching. Again, the closer you are to your target, the more accurate you're going to be. So that's back and throw. Let's jump to the next one, Alex. And this is front, back, and throw. So with each progression, we're backing up 2 or 3 steps. So now we're probably 65, 70 feet apart with college guys. You may not be that far apart with younger players if you're working with them. Now they rock to the front side, they rock to the back side, and then they turn and throw. Again, I'm really working on extension. I want to get just like a pitcher would. Some of you guys work with pitchers. You know, that's what you do with pitchers. You try to get extension. Throw the ball out front. Get as close to the hitter as you can. Give him less time to react to the pitch. Well, we don't have that issue here, but I want them to get the ball out front. Make sure the fingers stay on top of the ball and that they learn to throw the ball straight. So that's front, back, and throw. Okay, the next one, Alex. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free. You know how to probably do it. And Alex would stop me and he would ask the question. I'd be more than happy to answer it. But now we're ready to use our lower half. Guys, this is huge, man. This is huge. We are making too many mistakes here. Hopefully this young man gets out of the way here. But watch, the back foot has to go over the top of the front foot, not behind. Otherwise, your direction is wrong. You want to take that back foot right to your target. And too many guys step behind their front foot, and then they step, and they got their action going away from their target. I want all my action, all my momentum going to my target. And the placement of your back foot is key to this. So watch it. You can see again, watch the front guy here. He does a nice job. It's right, left, throw, follow. These are for right-hand throwers, obviously. So the right foot goes over the top of the left foot steps to your target, separate your hands, and then after you throw, you should always release. You should always make sure that you work your feet toward your target, 2 or 3 steps until he catches it. See how that young man, the closest to it, he does a nice job in how it should be done. So again, I see a lot of mistakes made on this right-left stuff where the guy takes his right foot behind his left foot and he's got his direction messed up. And then when he releases the ball's going to have some movement to it. It's going to sink. It's going to run. And that's when the ball sinks before it gets to first base. Now the first baseman's got to make a pick play, or the ball leaks into the runner who's coming down the line. And now he's got to make a decision. Do I catch the ball, come off the base, or do I let it go by because I don't want to get my elbow hurt? That placement of that back foot, I just cannot emphasize enough how important that is. All right, let's go to the next one. These are 2 foot patterns, coaches, that I tell our guys you have to master. I like to use that word master from time to time. That's a little different. That's a strong word. And for our infielders especially, I said, in order to play, guys, you have to master 2 foot patterns. You have to master them. Right, left throw and follow. Right, left shuffle, throw and follow. So, again, watch the guy here. He's doing a nice job. He was our second baseman. It's going to go right, left. He's going to click his heels, deliver the ball, and then follow it. Again, watch him right here now. Right? There he kind of went shuffle. He didn't do the right, left part. But it's right, left, shuffle, throw, follow. And those are the 2 big, big points that we emphasize. Now, from here, we go to the next slide. And now we're getting into some specifics. This is more geared toward infielders. Infielders have to learn to throw on the run. So what we call it, this is stationary throwing. So we make them balance on their right leg, bend over at the waist, and throw the ball. Really, when you throw on the run, guys, you're not changing your arm slot. You're just tilting your body. So the arm slot's the same. You're just tilting your body. And I'm getting these guys to balance on one leg, tilt a little bit, throw it, and then get a feel for how the ball's going to react coming out of that slot, because the ball's going to move into the runner. So now your target on your first baseman or your partner changes from his chin to his outside shoulder, because you know the ball is going to move back. Because I don't want to leave our first baseman out to hang him. You know, there's a lot of injuries that occur in baseball with that first baseman having to make a decision on whether he's going to catch that ball that's going into the runner. And we could avoid that if we just change our target area on our first baseman. So this is stationary throwing. We just started to implement this probably about 3 or 4 years ago, when I realized that throwing on the run, at the college level anyways, now becomes a routine play. That was not a routine play years ago. That was one of those special plays, one of what I call kind of a wow play. But now these guys are so athletic that many of them enjoy throwing on the run more than they do just doing the right-left or the right-left shuffle. So stationary throwing. The next slide. Now we're actually going to move and throw. So we're going to have guys going to have the ball in their glove. They're going to move 3 or 4 steps to the right, throw the ball. They're going to move 3 or 4 steps to the right, throw the ball. So now they're moving. So we're adding. This is the next step in the progressions. This is done every day. Every day these guys are doing this because I want them to get comfortable throwing on the run. Hey, coaches, anything you can do to make your guys more athletic, please implement into your practice. This forces these guys to be athletic, whether they want to or not. And I know they want to. They have to be athletic in order to do this. So then we're going to move to the left. Now, this is a little bit harder throwing across your body now. So they got to kind of turn their hips a little bit and try to, if they can, get their front shoulder to the target. Not easy, but you really can start to see your infielders who are a little bit more athletic than, maybe you hate to say it sometimes, but maybe your first baseman doesn't have that ability. This next one now, they're going to move to their left. They're going to spin out of it. So it'd be like a play up the middle on the shortstop, or the play in the 4-5 hole, or rather the 4-3 hole for the second baseman, where they feel it. They're going to spin, locate their target, and throw. Again, it forces them to be athletic. I'm a big fan of getting these guys to move while they throw. Let's go to the next one, Alex. Okay, now this one here, we're creating space, especially with as many games played on turf now. Again, this is more of an infield concept than a throwing concept. Remind your infielders that they control the hop of the baseball. But the baseball doesn't control them. They control it. So sometimes you got to give ground to create a hop. And that's what we're doing here. We're just getting comfortable, giving some ground to our glove side, and then we'll do it to the backhand. That's what they're going to now. Okay, now they're working their backhand. They're just getting comfortable. They've been taught since they were young players, to always go get the ball. Sometimes you got to give some ground. Then we go short hops with 2 tags. Now, you can freeze it here for a second, Alex. Again, as much as you guys play on turf, and even if you don't play on turf, these infielders now, I mean, the base runners, excuse me, these base runners, they slide aggressively into the bases. A lot of them have these mitten gloves or whatever the heck they're called. And they have a hard time grabbing the bag, and they slide by the bag. So again, just a hint for your infielders when they're tagging that we would tag twice. We tag in front and tag behind. So that's what we're working on here. We're just throwing a short hop to each other. We're catching the ball first. First things first. We tag in front, we tag behind. And then we keep the tag on the runner until we know that there's no more movement. You know, one thing good about college baseball, I know it doesn't affect high school or youth coaches, is there's the replay. So now you actually have to tag the runner. Years ago, if the ball beat the runner down there, most umpires would call the runner out. But now you actually got to tag him. So if you're going to ask your guys to do it in a game, you've got to practice it. So we call that short hop with 2 tags. Let's go to the next one, Alex. Okay, now we actually put the ball. Go ahead and start this one. We actually put the ball in the glove. We're probably about 15 yards away. Now we're going to go right, left throw. Bam, right, left throw. We're just working on feet now. I want to quicken those feet up. And I'm telling them right now, speed. It's all about speed right now. The quicker you get your feet underneath your shoulders, the quicker you get the ball out of your hands. So we do about 3 or 4 right, left throws, and then we'll go to right, left shuffle. Yeah, now, right now they're in the right, left shuffle. This is all done as part of their throwing program. Go to the next one, Alex. Okay, then we go rapid catch, rapid fire. So now we're working on the catch and transfer. Catch, turn, throw, catch, turn, throw. I usually put a stopwatch on these guys, and we do it 10 to 12 seconds. How quick can you get that ball in and out of your glove and on its way to your partner? Catch, turn, throw. So now they're trying to really work on what part of the glove they're going to receive the ball in, where they're going to catch the ball, toward the heel of the glove. And then we go rapid fire. Now they're going to use their feet a little bit. So now they're going to catch, pop their feet, deliver the ball. That'll be at the end of this slide. So this is still rapid catch. And then we'll go after that. We'll do that like twice for about 10 seconds. I got a stopwatch now. And now we're going to go rapid fire. So now we're going to use their lower half a little bit. Go to the next slide, Alex. I don't know how many, you could stop it right here. Do any of you ever practice footwork on your relay throws for your infielders? Or you just hit the ball out there and shortstop catches it, whatever he does with it to get the ball into the infield, you allow him to have? Again, these are recommendations. Do what you need to do. We have set foot patterns that they're allowed to do on a relay throw. If it's a short throw, so let's say it's a third baseman getting a throw from the left fielder on a play at the plate. Runner at second, base hit to left, right? Third baseman's the cutoff man. I think that's a universal cut and relay for everybody. Throw comes in from the left fielder. Third baseman's probably about 60 or 70 feet from home plate. He's going to step with his right foot to the ball, step catch. He's going to step with his left foot, deliver the ball. So it's right, step, catch, step, throw. Step, catch, step, throw. Obviously, he's going to turn his body to catch it, so he doesn't have his back to the catcher. So, and then the other foot pattern that these guys will demonstrate here is if you have to make a long throw. So let's say it's a shortstop, second baseman out in, for a shortstop, short left center, second baseman, short right center. Maybe there's a play at the plate. As he's catching the baseball, he brings his right foot in front of his left foot at the same time he's catching it. And then he steps with his left foot and delivers the ball. So he's gathering some momentum because he's got to now make a throw probably 120 feet or so. So he can't do the step, catch, step, throw. He's got to step in front. As he's stepping, he's catching, and he steps with his left foot and delivers the ball. So let's watch that, Alex. Watch these guys kind of demonstrate it. Again, if you want these guys to do it, now this is a step, catch, step, throw. See, I notice they take their right foot to the ball, and all they have to do is step with their left foot to their target. So that's for short throws. Your third baseman and your first baseman should really master this. Now your middle infielders have to do both. So now they're going to move into that, what I call the long throw relay footwork. See how he's coming in front? See how he's gathering some momentum? And he's not stepping to the ball now. He's stepping across his foot as he's catching the ball. Again, if you're going to want your guys to do it in the game, you got to practice this stuff. Next slide. Most of you do four-corner catch, right? This isn't anything new. We don't do it 90 feet. Notice how short the guys are. They're probably 60, 65 feet away. And it's not about developing arm strength here. It's more about quickness and footwork. And then, again, working on your transfer. So we got our catchers involved with our infielders. The outfielders aren't doing this, but the catchers as well as the infielders are. So we go to the left. Then the next one is where we go to the right. So now he's got to step in front. Don't let your players step away from their target. So notice how these catchers, when they catch it, they're stepping in front with their left foot, not behind. They're not stepping away from their target. That's a common mistake if you work on this, if you're throwing in this direction here. They're going to step away. These guys are always stepping toward their target. Or they can reverse pivot. Did you see the last catcher? He reverse pivoted on this. Those are the two options you have when throwing the baseball to your right. Let's go to the next slide, Alex. Okay, so now we're going to go to the left. We're going to add a tag. And again, we'd like it to be two tags. Bam, bam, and then deliver the ball. Bam, bam, deliver the ball. There's a lot of things you can do with four-corner catch. We would always time these 25 seconds. No mistakes. If a mistake's made, we stop and we start it over. Coaches, you have to add some accountability to your practices. If you just do this and the ball starts going sideways and you don't make any comments about it, or you don't make a statement or a point, they're going to think that's okay. And then when the problem is when we make that mistake in a game, then we kind of are disappointed in our players. Hey, what you accept in practice, you got to accept in games. So if you accept a poor throw in practice, then you got to accept it in a game. And if we make a mistake within 25 seconds, like I say, we stop, I would correct it, and then we do it again. Thankfully, we don't have to do it, very often where we have to repeat it. So is there another slide, Alex? Okay. Now we have the infielders out there. They're going to roll the ball. Now they're working on throwing on the run. So look at this guy comes up. He throws it to the second baseman. Second baseman rolls it to the first baseman. He comes up. He throws it to the third baseman. Third baseman rolls it to the shortstop. He comes up. He throws it to the catcher who's not there, but that's a first baseman. And then they repeat. So again, it forces them to be athletic. Forces them to get comfortable throwing on the run. And then a heavy, heavy placement on ball placement. Ball placement. Don't be satisfied with the guy just catching it on the other end. Make sure that that ball's to the outside shoulder of their person they're throwing to, because they got to understand that they got to play the fact that the ball's going to move a little bit coming from this arm slot. I think that's all the slides we have on our throwing program. So really, it's a combination of throwing program and then some other things that we add in there, like footwork for relay throws and, working on rapid fire, rapid catch. So you start working on your transfer and so on. So there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of trick them that you're still throwing. Because if you just went out there and just played catch for 15 minutes, that's hard. It's hard for college guys. It's certainly hard for 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. So now you got to implement some different things, but you're still throwing and catching. You're still throwing and catching. Don't make this stuff harder than it already is. We understand baseball's a tough game. It's a hard game. How can you simplify it? I would challenge all you coaches as you get ready for your seasons. Some of you still might be doing some work with your athletes right now, depending upon what part of the country you're at. How do you simplify it so that the execution is better? Because if it's complicated, guys, the execution is not going to be there. And I'll just tell you this, and I'm not here to talk about myself. That's not what it's about. But in the 22 years I was head coach at Creighton, nobody committed fewer errors than Creighton University. Nobody. There's 301 Division I schools. Nobody committed fewer errors. That's not a coincidence. That's not luck. That's because we made a point of emphasis, and you become good at what you emphasize. So if throwing and catching is not important to you, then I guess that's then you can't make it important on game day. You got to make it important in your workouts. And I think the players don't come to you. They come to you wanting to be offensive players. So somehow you got to convince them. You got to get your best salesman hat on to convince them in order for us to be as successful as we want to be. We have to take this throwing and catching stuff seriously. Now, with that, I probably talked too much, but does anybody have any questions?
Go ahead and fire away, guys. You don't even necessarily have to go into the chat unless you're more comfortable, but we've got some more time with Coach here. So if there was something you want affirmed or something that you wanted a little more detail or questions, now's a great time.
I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to emphasize, Mike.
Coach, I got a quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
With such an emphasis on throwing, you place the same emphasis on arm care, and what do you do, with your teams regarding arm care?
Really good question. I should have mentioned that. In all the years I've done this, guys, and we do a lot of throwing. I think we don't throw enough, to be honest. I think we have more problems because we don't throw versus problems from throwing too much. I had 2 infielders miss practice in all those years because of an arm issue. One young man was from Italy. He was a fun guy to be around. He comes up to me one day and says, "Hey, Coach, I don't think I can go today in practice. My arm's a little sore." And I said, "Okay." His name was Federico. And I said, "Okay, Federico." And his teammate, who was his backup player, had a really good practice. And Federico was all of a sudden really good the next day. He could practice. I found that interesting. The other injury we had in all the years I did this was we were outside practicing. It was 28 degrees. Now, some of you aren't from the north, and you're sitting there going, "Well, what are you talking about? You practice when it's 28?" And we would. And we did a little bit. That was on me that day. That was on me probably throwing a little bit too much in that cold weather. But we have a pretty dynamic stretching program. So I always wanted our players to have a little bit of a sweat worked up before we got to the throwing. See, our practices where we stretched for about 12 to 13 minutes, and I would lead the stretching because I would want to make sure our athletes were warm. Then from stretching, we went to base running, and from base running, we went to throwing. So I knew by the time we got to throwing that their body was ready for it. If you're working with the youth players, sometimes they're just coming from the car, so their bodies aren't warmed for the throwing activity. So we didn't do anything special like after practice, like maybe a pitcher would. But I tell you, I don't know if it was just luck or not, but we didn't have a lot of arm issues. And anybody who's ever watched us practice would agree that the volume of throws that we ask our guys to make is quite a bit. But they had to learn to throw with tired arms. But the last thing I ever wanted was to injure. I didn't want to injure anybody, obviously. None of you do either. So, but I think that warm-up is crucial in preventing some of these things that these young guys are going through. And then I think throwing the ball properly is a big part of it too. But we just never had a lot of that. But we made darn sure that they were warmed up before we started to do that. But that's a great question. I don't know if I answered it for you or not, but that's a good question. Because you should be concerned about the arm care of those. What coach, what grade, what level do you work with?
They're mostly 18U.
Oh, so you got some older kids. So you got 16 and 17-year-old kids. Good. Yeah. Well, you got some kids that can throw then. They can really throw. I don't know. When I used to go to high school games, the thing that stood out immediately is when you saw a kid that could throw. You just went, wow, that's pretty cool. We don't throw enough. Out of all the things I've seen over 40 some years, the thing I've seen that's probably digress. The kids are much bigger. They're much stronger. The equipment is phenomenal. I don't see us throw as well as we once did.
Yeah, agreed. Good stuff. Other questions, feel free to fire away. What do we have? I see one in the chat, but feel free to speak up. Coach Stolte, Coach, thank you for the information. What type of throwing program do you do with the outfielders?
Well, they would do the first half of that throwing program, and then they would have the ball in the glove outside their left ankle, come up and go right, left, and throw. Obviously, they're going to stretch their arm out probably a little bit more than an infielder would. So they're probably out there to 120 to 150 feet, depending upon what age level you're working with. And then they might throw the ball up in the air, catch it. So they work on getting behind the ball and getting their momentum behind the catch and delivering the ball. But like those drills that we had at the end, throwing on the run and ball in the glove and tags, they're not doing that. But they're just doing some of those, specific outfield foot patterns, ball in the glove, outside your left ankle where you feel that you got to make a throw, and then, throwing the ball up in the air, getting behind it, throwing, and then they're just lengthening their arm out a little bit more than the infielders. I should have mentioned that really that second half of that throwing program is really geared toward the infielders. That's maybe because my passion was always toward the infielders. I just always had a special place for developing those infielders.
Yeah, good stuff. Other questions? What do we got? Fire away. Feel free. Coach Cherney, would you teach your outfielders to crow hop with the drive leg in front or behind? Coach, did you get that one?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
The question was.
I thought you were asking Coach.
That's okay.
Cherney.
No, the question was that did you teach your outfielders to crow hop with the throw leg in front or behind?
Always in front. Always in front. I just felt if you take that leg behind, you got your action going away from your target. I'm just a big believer in that back foot. That back foot placement is going to allow that ball to stay straight, and you're going to get more behind the ball. And, some of these kids are really into their arm strength. They want to know how hard they throw. Even infielders and outfielders, they do a lot of testing like that when they go to these showcases. And we don't understand we need to use our legs more. And I think that's one of the reasons why we didn't have as many arm problems for the coach that asked that last time, because we put a heavy emphasis on using your legs to throw. Use your legs. That'll take the pressure off your shoulder and your arm. And so we want to step in front, never behind.
Coach, I've got a question.
Sure.
Just as we kind of lost, we were separated in our time, and I, got to coach at other places and go to clinics. It's normal that you kind of reflect, and then you see other people do things other ways, and it's just an assemblage of everything that you learn, right? And baseball is not necessarily done one way, but there's also not many ways that it's done either. And so what would you say, and I see a little bit of it, you mentioned the last 3 years that was even new for me to observe. What would you say if people asked you the attention to detail and the very succinct kind of tight compartmentalization of your throwers, did you ever feel like you had to give up athleticism and athleticism development with your players? And was that conscious to make the routine play and there was just an emphasis on that? Or do you still feel like athletically being that disciplined that you could still do both?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to do, and maybe I did it in my early days, but the last thing I wanted to do was take away their athleticism, and I wanted to do everything to promote their athleticism. So like some guys will separate and play like this before they deliver the ball. If they do it with some rhythm, that's good. I used to never allow them to separate their hands until they were ready to throw. But the last 4 or 5 years, I would let them go like this and deliver it, because one of them came up to me and said, it allows me to stay in rhythm. And I thought, well, good. That's right. So now you're more athletic. So you're right, Mike. Probably in my early days, I was a little bit more restrictive on what they could and could not do. But the more athletic our players became, the more I opened my eyes and said, I got to free them up a little bit, and allow them to do some of those things. As long as their feet are working, as long as they're staying in their legs, as long as it's still, their fingers are on top of the baseball, I got to allow some of that freedom and some of that athleticism. And, that probably happened, maybe 8-9 years ago that we started.
Yeah, and I think
before that, it was pretty, it's like, this is the only way we're going to do it. And then I freed up a little bit as I saw some of our guys come through that were more athletic.
Yeah, and I saw a little bit of evolution in you too when you changed surfaces too. Like when you went over to the grass surface and you went over there, you had to be a little bit different and approach things a little bit different too. And I think that's the natural result of it. And then just better players. I mean, you had some very different players from 2004 there towards the end. And so you have to coach to the strengths of that player and make the best out of that player too. And so
yes, you do.
That's a credit to you. So Coach Brassfield, I have a couple of middle infielders. So Coach Cody coaches at Gilbert Chandler here in Arizona, Coach Servais, just for some background. With longer arm actions, their release from glove to throw takes a little too long. What's your approach to helping the players shorten their arm action, their release time? At the older levels, I found this adjustment difficult. Specific drills, cues, progression. So for like example, the foot, that your feet are going to make your arm shorter, not your arm. But go ahead, Coach.
That's good questions, guys. These are really good questions. I would always remind our infielders to take the ball out of the glove sideways. Don't take the ball out of the glove, the bottom part of your glove, because that's going to create a long arm action. So take it out sideways. And I saw this drill, and I've been doing a little bit with some lessons that I do here off and on, is I would stand about 5 feet from an athlete, and I would throw him the ball, and I'd make him catch it with his fingers like this, if you can see on the video there. And then he would just take his hand straight sideways back and deliver the ball. So he's not catching it like this. He's catching it like this. And he's catching and throwing, catch it and throwing. And then the next progression would be I'd throw it to his glove. He'd catch it with his glove and then take it out sideways and throw it. But I just saw that drill because, it's one of the things I would notice when I would get the freshmen on campus the first couple of days is, hey, guys, that long arm action, that's not going to work with some of the better runners at this level. So you've got to shorten up that arm. And I know the first thing they think about is, I'm going to lose velocity. I'm going to lose strength. No, you're not. That quick arm, it's all about your lower half. That quick arm, you might actually gain a little bit. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Nicky Lopez play, and I'm not here to drop names. I don't feel comfortable in doing that, but he's the best thrower of the baseball we ever had. And Nicky played shortstop with the Royals for a whole year, and he made 2 errors. That's pretty hard to do at the big league level. And Nicky was a 5'9" guy, 160 pounds, undersized, but his feet and his arm, it was a clinic every time the ball was hit to him. And he had that perfect arm action where he pulled it out sideways, fingers stayed on top of the ball, and then once it's there, bam, you turn and throw. So you can't let those players take the ball out of the bottom of their glove, because then that creates that down, back, and up action. The problem is that's the action we teach the young player when they first learn how to throw. And that's okay, because it's a lot easier to teach a long armor into a short armor versus a short armor into a long armor. But that's a really good point. And if you got high school players, Coach, sounds like it's a high school coach, correct, Mike?
No, college, junior college.
Oh, well then, yeah. Hey, it's not easy at the college level, because they come to you with a lot of habits, but they can still break it. It's just not going to happen in 2 or 3 days. And the athlete gets frustrated because they want to see instant results, right? And once they see it doesn't happen right away, they just heck with it. I'll just go back to doing what I was doing. So, if you make it a point of emphasis and you talk to the athlete about why you're trying to shorten up his arm action, and then put a stopwatch on him every time you
that's what I was just thinking. And
force them to play fast. Force them to play fast. Like we would put a stopwatch on our players, and we said it's got to be in that first baseman's glove in under 4 seconds. Now, how many guys run under 4 seconds home to first? Not very many. So I was forcing them to go faster than what they're going to see in a game, So when they get into a game, the game actually slows down. And then when it slows down, they're going to have more success. The
Yeah, and then
stopwatch is
Cody-
one of the best things you can use. Go ahead, Mike.
No, then Cody, that especially with, if he's 20 years old, he'll be able to adjust his internal clock to the speed of what's going on versus having to mechanically diagnose him, which is harder.
I'm a big fan of the stopwatch for that reason.
Absolutely.
Great speed the game up, speed your practices up, speed them up. Don't slow them down. Too much standing around in practice. The biggest question when our guys go into pro ball, I say, hey guys, what's the difference? Oh, the speed of the game. Well, it's not the speed of the pitcher. They've all seen velocity. It's your decision making has to be quicker. And how do we help them with that in practice? Stopwatch is one way of doing that.
Yeah. Make that normal. And that's how it speeds up. Yeah. Good. All right, guys, we're right at 5:00 here, Arizona time. Like Coach said, wonderful information with wonderful engagement and questions. Thanks for everybody spending some time. I hope that whatever players are special to you and while you're on the phone to make yourself better, I hope that multiplies down to whoever those people are. And Coach, thanks for your wisdom as always. And we'll catch you again next Sunday.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.